Welcome to Whisky.com. Today we will visit the Glengoyne Distillery. The Glengoyne Distillery is located just at the south edge of the Scottish Highlands. It is half an hour drive from the city Glasgow to the northwest. The distillery is right next to a very busy road. On the one side you see the distillery buildings, on the other side there is a car park and the dunnages. Be careful when you cross the road, the British drive on the left side. Glengoyne was established in 1833. This means they were not included in the big whiskey distilling wave of 1824. Here you see the boiling house where the hot steam for the distillation is made, and here you see now the dunnages. On the right you see the old flat dunnages, and on the left side you see the new warehouses where the whiskey is stored on pallets. But whether the old or the new one, the whiskey matures all the same. Now we've parked our car and we're heading towards the distillery buildings, where you can see a small group of people. Behind the distilling buildings is a small reservoir, and behind this reservoir is a small hill where you have a nice view over the entire area. We will not join the group to get a better view at the distillation equipment inside the buildings. At the visitor center of the distillery you can book any kind of tasting you like in any kind of quality level you desire. Like all the distilleries that are open for visitors, you can see a great love for detail. On the right is the still house, and in the background you'll still see the dunnages. This building that just looks a bit run down is the malt silo. Most of the distilleries have an external malt silo and they all look a bit run down. This is now the screw conveyor that transports the malt to the mill. The mill then grinds it down and delivers it to the mash tun. The small labels on the casks have names on them. These labels indicate the people who have bought casks directly from the distillery. This is now the view into the still house. The rectangular shaped block is an intermediate receiver. It is used to store the faints and the low wines that occur during the distillation. In the back you can already see the wash still. You can always identify the wash still by the watch glasses at the front of the still. Through the watch glass you can always see how strong the wash is boiling inside the still. In the middle we have the intermediate still, on the right is the spirit still. And now we see the big mash tun, where the malt is mashed to get all the sugar out of the malt. All the stills are put on brick foundations. In the early times, the stillmen used to light fire in these brick foundations to distill the whiskey. Today they are just used as foundations and to hold the label of the new owner, Ian MacLeod. When we visited the distillery in 2003, the whole distillery was not in production, and as you can see the manholes are open. Here you can see the overpressure valve and the line arm that is used to condense the alcohol fumes back into a liquid. This is now the intermediate still, and you can identify it by the blue markings on the manhole and on the flanges. And this is now the spirit still, also equipped with the overpressure valve and the condensers. The shop is very well equipped, and you can even bottle your own whiskey directly from the cask. Here you can buy anything, even energy drinks and beer. Especially nice is the glass and the silverware. But the most prominent thing around here is whiskey. Glengoyne whiskey. These bottles are there for the self-bottling of their own whiskey. And this machine is used to put the corks into the bottles. And of course you will find many very rare bottlings like this 40-year-old Glengoyne.
Much richer, much darker. The angel share, right? That's the angel share, yes.
Besides Glengoyne, you will also find a few other whiskies. They are all from Ian MacLeod's distilleries, like this 50-year-old Isle of Skye.
If you need a wee bit water, there's water here. We always suggest you try it first.
And here a view from the outside, and there's also a nice goodbye sign. And we continue our walk from the glen towards the hill, and here you see a big container of process water used for the distillation, behind some casks that are labeled with their size. This is now the visitor center, and there you can book the tasting. And we will continue our walk towards the Waterfall walk. On the other side of the visitor center, you will find a small lake. The scenery around Glengoyne is really nice, and this old tree that has been cut to the shape of a Glengoyne bottle watches over the lake. The amount of water that runs through the river is very low. This is because the distillery is currently under revision and the water is backed up at the pond so it can be used during production. These old used casks don't have enough flavor in them to be used for production anymore, so now they stand here to be a guard to not fall into the river. This stone table is not an altar for virginal sacrifices, but a stone table to have a nice evening party. This plate marks a time capsule from the year 1983. These time capsules exist all over the world, and they store typical items from that area. And these are the people responsible at the Glengoyne Distillery. As in most distilleries, the kiln is not in use anymore. In the foreground you see the old flat dunnages, and in the background are the modern warehouses. These rusty parts are a tribute to the old production that had already machinery in use. Unfortunately, we couldn't go into the warehouses due to a duty-free policy in Britain. These new casks are ready to be filled. To open the warehouses in Glengoyne and store the freshly filled barrels, it takes 2 people as they have a 2-key policy. And here you see the pallets that are used to store the casks in an upright position. Storing the casks in an upright position is a bit unusual, as in Scotland it was tradition to store them in a lying position. Every distillery has to cool down its process water to normal temperatures, so it doesn't have an effect on the wildlife and rivers and lakes. This was the tour through the Glengoyne Distillery. Thank you for watching, and please rate, comment and subscribe.